Bhakti Rasayan Sagar Swami Maharaj is a monk and a renowned teacher of the Bhakti Yoga tradition with over 30 years of practice, lecture and coach in the field of conflict resolution, personal mission and yoga for success. Maharaj is a disciple of His Holiness Indradhyumna Swami Maharaj. Maharaj is also the founder and the international coordinator of the Ideal Leadership School at Mayapur, which provides training in different areas of life to connect professional life with serving God, society and the environment. Maharaj has completed 14 times travel around the world, delivering lectures and seminars in spiritual education. He has been preaching in more than 20 countries across 4 continents. Also, Maharaj had been a professional mediator, trained on the Harvard University mediation and confuciology materials. His track record includes politics, business, conflict resolutions in the CIS countries, Great Britain, USA, India, etc. So let's welcome His Holiness Bhakti Rasayan Sagar Swami Maharaj with all of us. Hari. Then we have with us His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu. Sundar Gopal Prabhu Ji came in contact with ISKCON during his studies at IIT Delhi. After getting inspired by the inspirational deed of the founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, he felt inspired to dedicate himself for this noble cause of spreading the Vedic knowledge and culture and its practical application, especially in the field, in the life of youths. Currently, Prabhuji is serving as the chairman of the IIYC committee. Also, Prabhuji serves as a zonal supervisor for West Uttar Pradesh and Central Bihar. Prabhuji is also the director of ISKCON Youth Forum at Delhi. Under Prabhuji's leadership, there is a very huge youth festival by the name Udgar was organized, where almost around 15,000 youths. You can just imagine, here we are around a couple thousand youths. So in the Udgar festival, there were around 15,000 youths were gathered in the year 2019, which was recorded as the world's largest anti-addiction awareness program. Also under Prabhuji's leadership, the IIYC organizes various youth retreats and youth preachers conventions all across the countries in East, West, North and South. Moreover, recently Prabhuji has organized a world record with 5,000 youths in Delhi with the festival named Wiplo, where 5,000 youths gathered in Dhoti Kurta for a 3-day event. Prabhuji has been offering individual and organizational based talks, seminars and training programs in leadership development and value education. So let's welcome amongst us His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu. So now we request all these dignitaries to kindly give their association and enlighten us on a very, very important topic. After we heard from His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu about the inner transformation, now taking that inner transformation deep within our heart, how we can go out and effectively reach out and transfer the same transformation from our hearts to their hearts. So they are all going to speak on the topic of how to do effective youth outreach. Hariyo. So I request to begin with His Holiness Bhakti Vinod Swami Maharaj. Yeah, and we have time, Maharaj, 10 minutes for each devotee. Hare Krishna. So something very interesting is coming. Just now Bhakti Vinod Maharaj told. Maharaj told, why you want to bore all the audience with our talks? We don't want to give a talk and let them just hear. We want to have a discussion, and a very interactive discussion where we can churn out various aspects of youth preaching. So Maharaj told, each of the speakers will speak for 5 minutes, and then they are going to have a discussion amongst themselves and also with you, where they are going to bring out questions and answers, so it becomes even more interesting. So how many feel this is very nice? So let's begin with His Holiness Bhakti Vinod Swami Maharaj.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'm very, very happy to be here amidst the powerful energy, youthful energy of all of you wonderful souls. And this particular session is actually meant and dedicated to see deeply and discuss openly challenges we have in performing outreach amongst the youth in South India. So, as a very brief introduction to it, I am just going to speak a few words on that, and maybe I'll follow up later. The major difference that I would say South India would have, I discussed with several people here and there, is that South India has got many languages. It's got Telugu in Telangana and AP, it's got Kannada in Karnataka, it's got Tamil in Tamilnadu, it's got Malayalam in Kerala. And each one of them are distinctly different cultures also. Quite different. Yes or no? Yes. How many here are from Telangana and AP? More than 50%. How many here are from Karnataka? How many here are from Tamil Nadu? They're all sitting together. Anyway, how many are from Kerala? There's nobody. Okay, so I just want to take a cross-section of the population we have here. And I want to make the point that if we want to speak to the youth of Kerala, what language you have to speak in? No, we speak in English normally. We preach in English normally. If we want to preach down in AP and Telangana, we have to speak in Telugu. We have to make penetration deep inside. So, I am just saying that if you want to preach in the north of India, in the west of India, in the central India, in the east of India, which language can you preach in? You can very easily cover the whole of north, east, center, by one language, Hindi. But if you speak Hindi in Tamil Nadu, you will most probably get stones on you. There was Hindi agitation before. They hate Hindi. They don't like to hear Hindi. They are Tamilakam land. They want to hear Tamil. So they have situations like that. I'm just giving you one example. There are similar examples in other places. But sometimes when we want to penetrate into the heart of a particular state, you have to speak their language, right? Nelson Mandela is known to have said something very distinct. He said that if you want to go into the heart of a person, speak his mother tongue. And if you want to get to the head, you can speak English. So we want to get to the heart of people like Radheshyam Prabhu was speaking now. We want to transform their heart. We're not interested in transforming their head. It's already being transformed at a deadly pace every day. So this is one point that I want to say, that it's challenging to speak one language for the whole of South. No, it's difficult. Similarly, there are other aspects which I want to bring to the knowledge of all our members here on the panel here, so that we can discuss some of these aspects from experience that others have had. I'll stop here. Om Tat Sat. Next.
Yeah, next
Maharaj.
I request Bhakti Rasayan Sagar Swami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So it's my great fortune to be in all of your association. I think I'm the one who gets the most benefit, because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically traveled to South India only. In his years, he specifically wanted to go to South India because, as we know from Bhagavatam, South Indians are considered to be the most pious people on Earth planet. So I'm very happy to be here with you. And I was requested to say a few words about the topic of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveling in South India. And of course, it's a very vast topic. So many places he visited, so many people he interacted with. But there is one particular incident which happened not far from here in Kurmakshetra, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Kurma Brahmana, who was very wealthy, very pious, and very devoted Vaishnava. And he immediately recognized Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he literally fell in love with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he approached him. He said, I don't want to be in my family life. I want to renounce it, and I want to travel with you. Which is quite exciting, right? You have the saffron squad in here. And, they're all traveling extensively. They have fun time. No jobs, no, bills to pay. You're a guest everywhere. You're treated very nicely. So very inspiring. And so, that's why it seems to be very practical option. Why do we have to, get stuck in our material responsibilities? Why can't we just renounce it all, right? I see a few heads nodding in agreement. And also because this is the topmost, one of the two key factors in bhakti, right? Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga shikshartheka purusham puranam Sri Krishna Chaitanya shariradhari kripam buddhirya svamaham prapadye. This is how Sarvabhaumacharya is glorifying Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? He says he is the personification of devotional service imbued with Vairagya Vidya. You all know what it is, right? So Vairagya comes first. And so, this concept is very attractive. Why do I have to bother about these material things? Why can't I just give it up and have fun life in Krishna consciousness, chanting, dancing, and feasting from one place to the other. So this is what Kurma Brahmana was aspiring for. And he told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please liberate me, please let me travel with you. But, surprisingly enough, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, you better stay at home and chant Hare Krishna mantra. And then very famous verse comes after that. I'm sure some of you will know this verse. Yaredeha tarekaha Krishna upadesh amara gyaya guru hana taredesh. That wherever you go, whomever you speak, deliver the message of Krishna to them. In this way, become guru and liberate all people around you. So this is very important because if you look at another incident from South India, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talking to Ramananda Rai. And Ramananda Rai brings up so many points on the request of Lord Chaitanya from Shastra, conveying the essence of it, and so many points were practically rejected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was saying, Eta Bahya, this is all external, speak something more essential. But then one verse, which actually caught Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's attention, was prayer by Lord Brahma. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he offered. And in this prayer, it says, Stanestita Shutigata Tanuban Manobir. That for achieving success in Bhakti, one has to stay where one is, right? No need to change anything externally. But, stanestita, but shrutigata, right? That dedicate yourself to hearing, and this hearing is the foundation of Bhakti. Dedicate yourself to devotional service, and do it with tanu van man, right? With your body, with your words, and with your mind. And so, in this way, we can conquer the unconquerable Lord. So this is very important, not only for ourselves, not to be, artificial renunciate, but to be actual devotee, because one of the repeated instructions Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita, interestingly enough, in the beginning, chapter 3, and in the conclusion, chapter 18, he says, Shayan swadharma vigunan paradharmat svanushthitat. It's far better to discharge your own duties than try to imitate others. So be yourself in Krishna consciousness. And so if you do not try to imitate anyone, but try to apply Krishna consciousness in your own life properly, then you can actually understand other people and not to try to move them artificially one way or the other. So, very interesting example which I want to give as the last point. Very extreme example, but extreme examples always serve the purpose. They show the principle. Is the biggest contributor to the Hare Krishna explosion. If you ever wondered how Srila Prabhupada managed in few short years to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere like that, there is one secret of success. Of course, Srila Prabhupada, being empowered Acharya, Krishna made arrangements for him, but there was one specific, very, very powerful instrument through which Srila Prabhupada, broadcasted the message of Krishna consciousness to hundreds of millions of people all over the world. This personality is called George Harrison, the famous member of the Beatles group. And so once George became interested in Krishna consciousness, and of course he is a celebrity having a lot of bad association, unfortunately, and so he could not properly follow regulative principles. For example, he could never give up smoking. Until the end of his life, he was chain smoker. Even after he gave Bhaktivedanta Manor, he used to come, but he would have cigarette breaks here and there when on the property. And devotees saw him smoking, and they would report to Srila Prabhupada that, look, George is smoking here on the property. And Prabhupada would chastise those devotees. Why are you spying after him? Mind your own business, basically, what Srila Prabhupada was saying. But George was feeling very bad about not being able to be a proper devotee. And he realized his weaknesses are coming from his position. He has to get a lot of bad association. And he told Srila Prabhupada, I would like to become a serious devotee. I would like to be initiated. To which Srila Prabhupada said, why do you need initiation? You're already Hari son of Hari. So there is no need for you to get initiated. But George Harrison, it was not a joke for him. He was saying, Srila Prabhupada, but, I cannot follow properly the principles because I have so much of bad association. So I want to give it all up and shave my head and move to the temple and become proper devotee. And Srila Prabhupada became very serious and he said, no, you stay where you are because you're very famous man, and being in your position, you can give the message of Krishna consciousness to so many people. So you should never give up your position. And he took it very seriously. And it was actually him who spread Krishna consciousness to so many people on Prabhupada's behalf. And he got blessed because even though he could not follow properly the regular principles, but he was chanting his rounds all the way, his whole life, and he actually left his body accompanied by his two best friends in Krishna consciousness, one Shyama Sundar Prabhu and another one Mukunda Goswami. And he said, I have no regrets. And I'm very happy to leave my body in Krishna consciousness. And I know that Krishna and Srila Prabhupada will take care of me. So he got blessed because he followed Srila Prabhupada's instruction. And this is really important for all of us. I mean, none of us, I hope, is in that critical position like him, where due to bad association, we cannot even follow regulative principles. But this is the idea. Srila Prabhupada never wanted to do anything artificially. And so we should not be artificial with ourselves and others, basically should not be fanatical, Hare Krishnas, trying to, induce people do something they are not meant to be doing. So, and this will help us to develop deeper relationship and inspire people to actually advance and serve Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you very Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Now may I request His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu to kindly speak.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Sound.
Hare Krishna. When I heard His Holiness Bhakti Vinod Maharaj, I felt what he said about the language is true. As you go from the city to town to villages, and also it is true when you have to preach to the grihasthas and also senior citizens and such kinds of people, if you have to preach. As far as the youth preaching is concerned, see, I was born in Karnataka, Tamilnadu, near Madurai. My destiny took me to Pune, Mumbai and Pune. Last 30 years I am settled in Pune. And if I can tell you the 24 most confidential circle of leaders who are with me, not one of them is Tamil. Similarly in Hyderabad, I have another dozen very confidential group leaders with whom I work with. Not one of them is Tamil. They are all Telugu speaking. So my understanding is relationship is spiritual and it is not just based on the language alone. But it is true when it comes to going to villages, village preaching or even to the mass of people, if you have to mass programs, then the language is more appealing. Otherwise, not only I survived in Pune somehow, but I've been a president of Pune temple last 30 years. If people considered the language, they would have driven me away long before. And I am going on. Hyderabad devotees tell me, please learn Telugu, Prabhu, it will be nice. They tell me, and Marathi I can understand, but I don't speak Marathi. I only give English lectures and Hindi lectures I give there. Krishna willing, I will learn some Telugu, I think, in the years to come. Maybe my understanding of the South India is very rich in devotion. You will see in Tamilnadu, Subramania Bharati Road. Kaake chirahinile nandalala nindran kariyaniram tondrudada nandalala Tikkul viralai vittal nandalala ninnani Tindamenvam tondrudada nandalala Parkum marangalellam nandalala nindai Pachai niram tondrudada. Then he says, when I see the trees, all the beautiful lushy green gardens with flowers and fruits and everything, immediately remembers Krishna, he says. Similarly, when I put my finger in the fire, that burning sensation of the fire is Krishna. Krishna says that, he says that, Vibhavasa, I am the heat in the fire, I am the light of the sun, I am the light of the moon. So Subramania Bharati wrote this, which means you find, similarly, Rajagopalachari, just before he left his body, he wrote a great glorification of Krishna, one song, Koreyundrumellai, Maraimurti Karna, which is sung by M.S. Subbalakshmi. You can see that. So, Kannadasan, when he left his body, he wrote Arthamalla Indumadam, 10 books. So, you will find that Tamil Nadu is rich with Krishna tradition, even amongst these people who are not so famous for Krishna tradition. Leave alone this, go to Ramanuja's Srirangam. Andal is writing Adimadai Kanna in her song. So, come to Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, if you see Annamacharya, Jagara Jagrati, Marukelara, O Raghava. Like this, there are so many songs glorifying Sitaram, Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, you will hear. Go to Karnataka, you will find Purandara Dasa Kriti. So, and also not only the songs, the temples, the saints, and the holy rivers. Prabhupada quotes that in the 12th canto, it's the 11th canto Bhagavatam, there is one shloka which says, anybody who drinks the Tamarparani waters, they will become pure devotees of Krishna. And in the Dravida Desh in future, there are going to be many, many pure devotees born. So many of you who are living in the belt of Tamarparani, please preach nicely. Many great leaders for ISKCON are going to come from there. So, there is a very bright future for South India, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam as well as the Srila Prabhupada says, in South India the culture is still maintained because the British and Mughals could not deeply penetrate South India, Prabhupada says. So the culture is still preserved. Prabhupada writes in one of his letters, he writes, At the same time, I can think of four great enemies to the South, in South India that I have observed. One is the atheistic scientific dust, which is covering the eyes of the youths in South India because they have been blinded by atheistic modern day science and technology and medical advancement. They are too much impressed by it. They have their brain, but they are using their brain for technology. Many of the Brahmanas are sending their children to America. My son is in Houston, daughter is in Boston. They are very proudly raising their collars. Not telling them to read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavata. This is one big. So therefore, the atheistic dust has to be removed from their eyes for them to develop respectability for the Vedic literature. Another second dust I can think of is a sense gratification dust. This is also becoming rampant in the South. We are finding that people, of course, all over the country in India, the sense gratification is a common problem. India is a yoga bhumi. The West is a bhoga bhumi. Still, the yoga bhumi of India is becoming bhoga bhumi now. Because of the MNCs bringing their culture from the West into India, whether it is Bangalore, whether it is Hyderabad, whether it is Chennai, it hardly makes any difference. The culture is coming in. You can't stop it unless you vigorously preach Krishna consciousness. So people are just thinking, just make money, eat, drink and be merry and enjoy. People are becoming completely blinded by sense gratification. They're fooled by sense gratification. So they have to be slapped and woken up. But to the reality of how Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam Tayapasas. Vyavasayatmaka Buddhir Samadho Namiti. Therefore, they are not getting Samadhi in Krishna consciousness. They are taking it lightly. Thirdly, the devotional element is there in everybody, very naturally, as I told you, all the more so in the South. But that is unfortunately being jeopardized by impersonalism. People, like there is Shankaracharya, there is Ramanujacharya, there is Madhvacharya. These are all highly respectable acharyas in South India. And good number of intelligent youths of South India are attracted to Vivekananda circle, and they are attracted to that kind of philosophical, they are philosophical by nature. They study Upanishads, they study Vedanta, and they become like a honeybee licking the honey bottle from outside. They are unable to taste the sweetness of Bhakti because of that. So if somehow or other, even I was also one of them, honestly speaking. I had a dozen organizations where I used to meet the sannyasis, sadhus, to learn things. They were all feeding me impersonalism. Fortunately, Krishna saved me from South and sent me to Mumbai IIT. Where I met Hare Krishna and Krishna devotees in ISKCON temple, and then I was saved from, moksha. So therefore, that is the third one, is the impersonalism. The fourth one, the swindlers and bogus incarnations. Even many brahmanas who are supposed to be learned in Shastra, they are going and selling their lives to so many babas, so many people who are claiming to be God, and people, make them God, make a human being into God, and they are not able to understand how Krishna and Rama are divine. Not understanding that, they are selling their lives to bogus incarnations. So these four dusts, if our preaching can remove these four dusts from the eyes of the youth of South, you will see South will boom with thousands of youths in the time to come. Hari Bol.
हरे कृष्ण। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनं शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पासादि जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण। So the topic is about the effective youth outreach, specifically in the context of youth preaching in South India, and that is the topic we are discussing. And the Maharaj and His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu has given very important inputs on this matter. So, in terms of outreach, youth outreach, or preaching to the new audience, fresh audience, whenever I talk on this topic, one very important thing comes in my mind. One example, very important, attractive example of Srila Prabhupada. That I usually call it Srila Prabhupada Big Bang preaching model. Like the scientists, they say, that everything came from nothing. And that's all they say, the Big Bang, something Big Bang happened and everything manifested. And we also see the Srila Prabhupada, like, his preaching model was actually a Big Bang, because when he went to America, when he started this preaching mission, practically, he had not much in terms of manpower or money power, or even of course, Prabhupada was very expert in speaking English. But at the same time, we have heard that when Prabhupada would speak English, many times people would not understand also. But clearly they would not understand that what Prabhupada is saying, many times in the beginning days. So, how Srila Prabhupada could do this thing? I was thinking on this point, and then few important insights I got, which I would like to share. Srila Prabhupada once said that Krishna can give you the whole world in 18 days. But are you ready to take it up? No. So, are we ready to take it up? Krishna can give. And not only can give, actually the many people are waiting for us, what I see. Yesterday also we heard when Bhakti Maharaj was giving example of Cambodia. That when he went and they were told them to chant Hare Krishna, and immediately people took it up and they started chanting, they started preaching also. So what I could understand that there are many souls, they are waiting for us. And practically we have seen this example in many places, like of course wherever the devotee goes, we find some people sitting in the corner. They take up Krishna consciousness very seriously. Of course, not so many, but not everyone. But Krishna says that, out of thousands, Manusyanam Sastresu Kastin Yatati, among thousands there will be one. So suppose, for example, take the example of, any city in the Karnataka or any town in South India. If there are 5 lakh population, and if that is divided to 1,000, how much it is? 500. Since 500 people are there just sitting, waiting for us. Just we have to find out who are those 500. So many times we see that we go and some people are very serious. In the beginning, when we start preaching, the first principle, the golden principle, I say that rather than making people interested, better to get interested. No? Can we repeat? Yeah. Looks like breaking our head on the tough stone. And it takes we waste a lot of our energy and time also. So first we should aim to get serious people. So when we say, are we ready to take the whole world? What does that readiness means? Readiness means that the preacher has to be well trained. The preacher who is going to preach, who is going to approach people for outreach, the preacher has to be well trained. What do we mean by well trained? Well trained means he knows the way, he goes the way, and he shows the way. That is called well trained preacher. He knows that when I am going to preach, then what kind of audience is there? What kind of challenges are there? What kind of strategies I have to adopt? That is called he knows the way. If this situation comes, this kind of strategy I will adopt. If this situation comes, this kind of methodology I will adopt. So he knows. He knows. How he knows? How does he know? He knows it by training. There are so many successful preachers. Like we see here, even in this assembly, like there are so many preachers who are very successful. So, and also in South India, our IIT Executive Board Committee, they organize regular training programs. We had some training programs few months back. So we were discussing on these topics. Any challenge you are facing, we can get trained in such seminars, presentations, taking guidance from such seniors who are successful in preaching. So first we should know. If we do not know who are our, the people who we are going to face and what are the challenges, how are you going to face them? And then, so we should be well prepared. We should know. And then we get in the beginning, like all of us when we sit in the exam, how many of you have ever sat in the exam? Okay. Almost everyone. So when you sit in an exam, when the question paper comes, which questions do you attempt first? The tough ones or easy ones? Easy ones. Why? Yeah, because if you answer those questions which you know, then you in less time you can cover more. Otherwise you waste your all time in answering the tough ones, and in the process you leave easy ones also. They're also left. So the intelligent person, the first he takes care of easy ones. Easy ones means that the people who are interested, who have got some interest in Krishna consciousness. How to find out those interested people, focusing on them, getting them. Because why? Because in the beginning when we start preaching, we are also very new. We don't have like 10 of 10 or 15 devotees and we are going to take care of 500 or 1000 people. No. I am alone. Preacher is alone going. Suppose even if 500 people comes, how many people can you take care? Not many, isn't it? So we should only select few ones who are very interested, focus our energy on them, and then train them. So this is the first principle, golden principle is that select the interested one and then focus your energy on them, train them nicely, train them. Then the second principle, this is very, very important. Okay, first principle you all remember? Yeah. The second principle is that when we come to, if we have one preacher with me, if I have one preacher with me, I can make 30, 40 devotees, isn't it? If I have 20 preachers in my team. How many devotees we can make? 800. So we should not focus on number of devotees. But when we are planning to make a great number, great number of devotees, then we should not focus on number of devotees, but we should focus on number of preachers. In the language of corporate language, they say P by PC balance. Production versus production capacity. People generally in corporate world, they focus on production. How many products we have produced. But they say, no, we should not focus on how many products, but our production capacity. If we increase our production capacity, then production will automatically get increased. You got the point? So this is the second principle. That when we have got some interested people, we train them so nicely and they become our production capacity. So suppose we make 5 devotees and out those 5 devotees, for 1 year, 2 years, we are just focusing, those serious people, 5 people. They become serious devotee. You have 5 preachers after 2 years, after 3 years maybe. Someone say, oh, only 2 years you have made only 5 devotees. What is this? It's not 5. After 2 years, it will become 100. That is called, smart work. We are not making 5. We are making how much? 100. If you take a seed, somebody say, this is a seed. Somebody say, there is a tree. This is a tree. Somebody can say, there is a forest in this seed. The vision. When I look at this seed, do I see a seed? Do I see a tree? Or do I see a forest? The vision. So when I am making 5 devotees. The 5 devotees are, third year they each can take care of 20, it becomes 100. And then another 3 years, those out of those 100, another 20 can become serious. And then, so that is called second way how we can encourage preaching. To get 5-10 serious devotee is not very difficult. If we try it sincerely, and the most important thing is that mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada is there with us. Srila Prabhupada said that there are devotees and there are temples. There are devotees and there are temples, only time is separating us. When Srila Prabhupada went to the West, then one gentleman asked, what are you looking for here in the West? Prabhupada said, I have come here to make devotees and temples. They said, how is it possible? Who will listen? Then he said, there are temples, there are devotees, only time is separating us. So similarly, we can see here, Srila Prabhupada knew that even in the South India, there are temples and there are devotees. Only time is separating us. Now how? See, Prabhupada met one devotee. Like he went to Russia and we have heard that he inspired one Russian devotee. He became serious devotee, and today we see, 40 years, 50 years down the line, we have so many devotees there. So like in each area, we can make few serious devotees, one. Like suppose Telugu, one serious Telugu devotee is, we can say so many serious devotees are here. He is one seed and he can transform so many Telugu devotees, isn't it? One Tamil, I don't know Tamil, but like suppose even if you have one Tamil devotee, then he can transform so many Tamil devotees. But only thing is that compounding effect, like I was explaining about production capacity, has to be increased. So I will stop here with this few. The Srila Prabhupada also used the same model, Big Bang teaching model. He inspired few ones and he inspired them sufficient enough so that they can inspire others also. Yeah, Holy Name Big Bang. Yeah, Holy Name Big Bang. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, it's a great pleasure hearing from His Holiness Bhakti Vinod Maharaj, His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu, Sundar Gopal Prabhu Ji. So, Bhakti Vinod Maharaj mentioned about the need of preaching in different various languages of South India to contract the preaching to have, and His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu mentioned about the 4 challenges in South India, and Sundar Gopal talking about how to make leaders, how to make our preaching effective. So now we want to take some questions, how to make, what challenges we are facing in the South Indian preaching. So this topic was suggested to me by His Holiness Bhakti Vinod Maharaj. So Maharaj wanted to churn out that we all devotees from South India have assembled here, and many of you are facilitators, preachers, and here we have stalwarts for preaching, so we can together bring out something more, something what all things we can carry, and already we got so much points. So we have a few questions and the challenges to put. So as we know, like I give an example, in when we have to do preaching in North, you take one common language, Hindi, and everybody is with you. But when we have to do in a South India, so English covers some of the part, but the rural, the urban part it covers when you take English as a common language. But when we want to do some big program and covering multiple languages becomes a challenge there. So like Viplav Festival happened and Hindi, the film from all the places people came. But here in this Sangha, is a majority is the urban crowd. But the local crowd we could not gather much because of the language difference, and we had a lot of how we do translations and other things we tried. But so some suggestions how to go to the local preaching languages in South India. Is a question.
That was my question, by the way. See, just to clarify, normally we have a moderation and it's supposed to be a discussion and amongst us, and you watch and then you ask questions. Anyway, we're doing it for the first time, so it's okay. I just want to answer. I put in a seed for discussion, threw in a question that language could be a possible reason where it may be a hindrance or a challenge as it looks like. For instance, let me ask Radheshyam Prabhu, how many of your main preachers there are from South India in Pune? Nobody. Nobody from Tamil Nadu, nobody from Telangana, nobody from Andhra Pradesh, everybody from Maharashtra only? Yeah, there are Telugu people. What I'm trying to actually say is, preaching in the metro cities, let it be Pune, let it be Delhi, let it be Bombay, let it be, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, all that goes on pretty well because most of the people in the number 2 tier cities or 3, when they want to, study, get a job, after being with you for some time, they get a job and move to these metro cities. Yes or no?
Correct.
Yeah, all of you would face that. So in the metro cities, all these people gather. And maybe there is a greater field for you to preach to them. But they don't very much always come back to their locations and start preaching in their languages or anything like that. So in the metro cities is where you can meet all the cosmopolitan language speaking people, whether it be south, north, east, west or anything. And there is a certain market there and a certain field there where you could do the preaching. What I am actually saying is that if we also preach actively in the local languages, we penetrate in a particular region and we create a deeper sense of the Krishna consciousness movement and the understanding of it. Because it's got to do with the culture of the place. Prabhupada said, mine is a cultural conquest. He used the word. And to a reporter he said, Krishna consciousness is a cultural movement for re-spiritualization of human society. You'll see that in the Bhagavatam, in the preface, he's written that also. And he said that also to reporters. So culture means in India, especially in South India, it's a lot tied up with language also. When you speak English and people are forced to learn to speak English and they get exposed to certain things in the social media and this and all that, naturally a lot of a Western thought creeps inside. I'm not against Western thought or Western philosophy or science or anything. But you pervasively invade your culture and sort of replace it. Because that's what happened in the colonial period. In the colonial period, the whole master plan was to affect the culture and replace it with a different culture. You must be knowing that. That was Macaulay's actual statement. He said that this is what we should do. We should introduce English. We should make them think like us. We should change it like this, like this, like this. And we'll be able to do it if we introduce English. I'm not speaking in terms of Hindutva and Hinduism and everything, but I'm speaking in terms of strategy. So it's very nice that we preach in English. I mostly speak in English, by the way, but I'm just speaking this from having seen in different places. And there are a lot of interested local devotees who are more comfortable in the language that they know. But when they come to ISKCON, they hear in English because that's only maybe the common language available. But when they speak amongst themselves, they speak in their mother tongue only. They come to hear, yes or no? Yeah, you will feel it comfortable to speak in your language and express Krishna consciousness in your own language. So I'm not against speaking in English, but I'm saying that if we penetrate deeper and affect the culture of a place, you may need to do it also in that particular language. Like in South India, in the evening Sandhya, Ki bajayo jaya gora chande. Local people come inside. And they actually wonder, என்ன நடக்குதுங்க? என்ன பாஷையில பேச? What language? I've never heard of this before. I'm talking about practical things. I'm just saying, I'm not saying this or that. I'm speaking about the perspective of the people who step inside and watch. Yeah, new people and everybody. Youth or anybody. This is completely, I don't know anything about this language. I don't even know. First of all, Hare Krishna is new to me. On top of this language is definitely more stranger than I've ever heard or seen before. So, you're making it easy for people to step inside the culture, which is already their culture. It's not, Hare Krishna is not some new culture. But the way it's presented, sometimes they feel that I've never heard this before. This dancing, this chanting, this deity worship and this Bhagavad Gita and all, never heard it before like that. It's become like a foreign culture bought from the West or something. It's not. It's not. So sometimes we're able to tie up the Krishna consciousness philosophy and the culture much better if you speak into the local language and tell them this is what your ancestors did in this language. Like he was quoting about Tirupati, he was quoting about in Tamilnadu. If you speak in Tamil and move inside, maybe you'll get a lot more youth tying it up, because you can tie up the Krishna consciousness with Andal's Tirupati, you can tie up the Krishna consciousness with many other things that are already existing. Just like in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, you can tie it up very easily with Annamacharya's Kirtans, in Kanakadas and that and this and everything, and it clicks far better for you. Right? That's my point. You can't speak in English Tirupati. To some extent you can. Some people are doing it. I try to do it also. But it doesn't attract the local people and the Tamil people so much. But if you speak it in the local language and give Gaudiya Vaishnava interpretation to Tirupati, I tell you, it will click very well. It will click, and it's at home and people get to know it. But I understand that we have some, limitations to all those things. But what main point is, some people would argue and say, language is not really important nowadays because most of the youth are working, they are becoming engineers and lawyers and this and computer scientists and software engineers and everything. And they don't need to know these things because the language is different. And it fits into speak English and everything like that. I'm okay. But I'm trying to balance and have people think about it, that I know of other organizations who take advantage of the local language and penetrate and go deep into the life of a person and affect him may be far easier. I'm just thinking that we should also think about that in South India, because we don't have one lingua, one language that we can communicate in together. That was just my thought, and that could possibly be a challenge how we may not be able to penetrate. Apart from the fact that I say that in second level and third level terms, that the devotees come and talk to me many times and say, all the youth preaching I did, most of the people are gone because they got placed somewhere and they got married, and after that they are sending me donations to preach. But it's not that they stay in that place. So these are some of the challenges that I wanted to pose and start thinking about, because there is always a way of doing these things. Like Prabhu was mentioning, that Krishna inspires that intelligence in everybody to do that. And Prabhupada definitely was a pioneer in breaking new ground in all sorts of places to establish Krishna consciousness. And inspiration from Prabhupada's life and the way he broke ground in places in different types of levels of preaching is something that we could think of. So one point that I would like to make is, a lot of our preaching to the youth is maybe categorized as mass preaching. Lord Chaitanya did class preaching, and he asked Nityananda Prabhu to do the mass preaching. A certain level of philosophy in a certain way, if we understand, we have a bulk of people who would take it up. But there are people who have a lot of questions at whatever you say, and they don't ask it because they feel that the atmosphere there will not be encouraging to the questions that they want to ask. Especially those who are a little academic oriented and move fast in their understanding of certain things. We need to also step into some class preaching. And those class people also have a lot of mass of people following them. Sometimes we need to also step into class preaching to the youth. I know of many youth who just brush it aside and say, I don't think that is true. And I don't want to talk to you much, because I don't agree with the way you stay. Your statements are sometimes fanatic. And I know of youth among my own group of people who have challenged me in saying that nowadays I feel differently. I think that many questions are not answered. Because for a little intellectual person and for a person who is a little more having depth, with social media and everything, there's a lot of width. There's a lot of information we speak about. Preaching is not only speaking for some people and getting information. Preaching, you have to talk in such a way that people understand also. Some class people who are very intelligent, they just say that I don't understand what you're saying. I mean, it's information, but I don't understand it. I don't get the depth that I need from what you say. So there are a lot of people nowadays, a lot of youth nowadays, also who have got quite some width and understanding because of social media and information available freely. But they also have a lot of depth, and they have gone ahead thinking a lot. But we need to cater to that type of people also, especially in South India. If you go to Kerala and talk, nobody will listen to you so easily. They'll ask you at least 10 questions, and from a direction which you never expected. And they make bold statements. I just come to my mind, I just give an example of, I once spoke at a international suicide convention made by a big medical college there in Trivandrum. And I was called to speak because they called different organizations. One Hindu organization. It was mostly a Christian group that was organizing. There were nuns, there were fathers, there were all sorts of people. Plus, they're all very efficient and eminent doctors and everybody together. And there were Muslims and everybody. They asked me to speak about suicide, and subtle body, and you don't die, and suicide is just body is gone and da 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 and all that. And I came and spoke like a Swamiji. Nobody liked it. They didn't like it because they said, this is a religious thing this guy is speaking. And the first question one person asked to me was, homosexuals commit suicide because they're not recognized, those people who are gay. What do you have to say about that? He brought me back, don't speak about subtle body and all that. Let's talk about this. And then I was, struggling. I said, I really don't know much about homosexuals and their psychology, and I didn't study that. Then another guy got up and said, do you know Lord Shiva is a homosexual? He actually said this to me. And then there was another guy who said another thing. And then they said that I'll produce quotes. And they started producing some quotes. So I don't say that these people are great depth, but they're depth in another direction. It's not in the direction that we are thinking. They actually did some research on all these things, and they have some papers on all these things and all that. So when we speak Krishna consciousness, intelligent people sometimes don't take it very seriously. This is just religious stuff. So we also need to present Krishna consciousness as being very relevant to a class of people who are intellectuals, which is what Prabhupada started the Bhaktivedanta Institute for, which is what he was trying to do also. And that means actually appealing to people in the colleges who are studying, and they study deeply, and make it appealing to them also. So that's my other point. I'm just throwing these things inside. Class, I feel in South India, in many places, there are students whom we don't reach, and they go to some other organizations who speculate and reach to them in some speculative way, some intellectual stuff. But we can reach to them. I know of intellectual people who are working with the Mata Amritandamayi organization, and they are doing free service as faculty members, and they are double PhDs and everything. I always wonder, how did this guy get here? I mean, we have such great philosophy, how did he get here? Because some type of complex speculative philosophy has been spoken to him, and he likes it, to chew it on his intellectual platform. But somehow I feel that to a lot of intelligent people, especially youth, if we give Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy to chew, it will be very tasty for them. And we have not maybe done that so much. That's the third point I just want to make. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you, Maharaj, for bringing so many points to churn, especially the last part that many intellectuals are going to different organizations, have practical experience in IIC, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, that though some boys are coming to us, but many are joining other organizations also, and we are not able to tap. And Maharaj talk about the language concern, the classes, and the mass preaching in South India. So thank you for the points. Now we have 10-15 minutes more for the discussion. I think His Grace Aishampu has to go 11:45 to the class there. So maybe we'll take some points from Prabhu Ji and then Sundar Gopal.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We talk about 3 C's: contact, cultivate, and care. So the contact happens with new people through Rath Yatras, or through book distribution, one-on-one book distribution, or through temple visits of the new people, or prasadam distribution, or one-time programs in colleges like that. So, and then when it comes to cultivation and care, there the language has a very important role to play. One-on-one cultivation, when people are doing, then the language is additional, it can be considered as an additional feather on your cap, in case you know the language of the boy. Undoubtedly. Like devotees who went from Pune to Hyderabad or Bangalore, they know the local language. There's one Suvarna Gaur Hare Prabhu in ICC Bangalore. So he gives Kannada lectures also and talks to people also in Kannada. Similarly, all the Telugu speaking devotees who went from Pune to Hyderabad, they also have that extra edge, we can say, in personal cultivation. That was one thing that came to my mind. So when we give lecture in English, when Prabhupada was given Sannyas Diksha, on the day of Sannyas Diksha, Prabhupada gave an English lecture. although many Bengalis were sitting. One of the reasons Prabhupada says is, Indians, even if they don't understand what you are saying, they become impressed when you speak in English. Therefore, his guru told him, preach this message in English language. So, Prabhupada was giving a lecture in Vrindavan temple, Bhagavatam, in English. One family had come, husband, wife, children. They demanded that, how many Hindi mein bolo? They were saying. Prabhupada said, Hindi class shaam ko hoga, shaam ko hoga. Prabhupada said. So, morning class in English, evening class in Hindi. They had like that. So, morning class Prabhupada gave in English, Bhagavatam class in temples, in order to increase the respectability of ISKCON's philosophical presentation. Otherwise, people take ISKCON very cheaply. That was one of the intentions. And the Radheshyam was big-headed guys joining Amma's college, Amma's college, Sadhguru, or anybody like that. Those who join. You will be very amazed to know the Indian psychology. The Indian intellectual has two sides of his head. One is the religious head, one is scientific head. Like I know TAFR people, they believe in Darwin's theory, Big Bang theory, and they also do lab and everything according to all the atheistic theories. And they can very coolly go to the temple, do religious activity, pious activity, and bow down. They can maintain both heads, two sides of the person. How many of you have seen that? Yeah, I have seen it. Now somebody joining Amma's college doesn't necessarily have to be an intellectual, or even if it's a double PhD, triple PhD. They are sold out sentimentally to religious leaders. You will see that. People emotionally they become overpowered by many of the leaders who show some magic or embrace or some mystical thing they show. Yeah. That way Sai Baba has a huge number of intellectuals also. You will see that. So, my take on this point is Srila Prabhupada's book. Also, in multiple languages, as Maharaj also said, we have to present it in English, Hindi, and also in South India, multiple languages. We can have penetration in the towns and villages, and actually colleges and the villages and towns are consisting of boys who are very, very having very good character, very good quality. They have not yet got spoiled with the city life. So if you can reach them with the local language, they'll be very inspired, and preaching to them is relatively more easy than preaching in the city in cosmopolitan climate, where the Western culture has sufficiently dominated. Of course, this is not to say that in villages there is no Western culture. Smartphone has reached everywhere. The whole garbage of the world is available in village also. But relatively less, you can say. Relatively. Compared to the city, relatively less. Because not all village people in India are rich enough to have costly gadgets and everything. Let India remain like that so that people don't get polluted. So that they can take Krishna consciousness seriously. So, very vital points Maharaj brought out, and I also feel that if we have to go from the current level of operation in South Indian preaching to another platform, to a higher platform of much bigger impact on the people, then many of these points may be considered by all of you preachers. Many of you here are calling your friends and everybody. And Sundar Gopal made two very profound statements. One statement he says, try to get interested people instead of getting people interested. Another point he said was about identify leader type boys. We call them as Sreshta. Sreshta means he is leading a group of people, or he is topper, or sometimes he is also very influential. Prabhupada said leader means when he speaks, other people listen and they follow. So those kind of people, if they could be identified, that was one thing. Another thing, Maharaj was also saying that, and he was saying another point, even if we preach to 5 people, if they all can become preachers, there will be 100 people, 20 each. So I think very, very good pointers we got today in our cultivation of those who are becoming devotees. Rather than, like if you see a honeybee, it doesn't carry the whole bush with it. It only carries honey. It's called Saragrahi. Similarly, when you give a one-time program for a big crowd of boys, you have to identify those who are showing interest, those who come to the stage to talk to the speaker, those who come to the book table, those who take prasadam and hang around to ask more questions. Those are all sincere souls who have some interest. And if you could jot down their names and follow them up and invite them to the weekly programs, probably we may get some clean devotees who may later on become the future.
So thank you, Radheshyam who is to lead this session, Power of Habits, in the Bhakti auditorium by one time chanting Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So regarding the language, what Maharaj was mentioning, and I also feel that that's very important. So I was talking to our IIT South Wing Executive Committee members. So we were discussing that. Earlier also we had discussion on this matter, that even these seminars also we should have in different languages. Like once we thought that we can have FM facility getting translated in different languages, So we were also discussing like that state-wise we can do this meet. Like Karnataka devotee can meet together and there we can have language, Kannada language convention. And for Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, we can have Telugu convention. And for Tamilnadu, we can have Tamil. So that's what it's very, very valid point, and that is not impractical. That can be practically executed also. And then the local, there is a saying that think globally and act locally. And now the government is also saying that vocal for local. That we have to become vocal for local. Local culture.
Yeah, Haribol.
Local principles, customs, all those things.
Yes, Maharaj. After that,
So, the whole point of discussion is that all of you as a preachers, when we approach to the new audience, when you all are going for preaching, must take into account this aspect which Maharaj was mentioning, that people are language sensitive. There are many people, they are very language sensitive. Like recently we had news that some laborers from Bihar, they were beaten in Tamil Nadu. There were huge cry on this in the news channels. And they were, they went back to Bihar crying that because they were speaking Hindi in Tamil Nadu, they were beaten. So this language sensitivity is there, of course. So when we are preaching, we should take into account this point. It is very valid. And like how many of you are here who knows the Tamil language? Can you raise your hand? Yeah. So you all can think of, like Maharaj is speaking, that we can start taking some session for Tamil speaking people. They may get attracted. Similarly, Telugu, another language. And also like the Maharaj was mentioning very important point, that our presentations should be very logical and relevant. Although we are speaking from the Shastra, but the modern youth are, they are scientifically, they say that they want logic behind everything. Why we do what we do? Why I should wear dhoti kurta? Why I should, do this? And that's why first we should win people's head. then second heart, then third hand. Head, how we can attract their head, satisfy their intellect. Satisfy their intellect through logic, through dialogue, discussion. Like Maharaj was saying that Lord Shiva is, almost this kind of philosophy is getting propagated. There is an author. He has written a book on this. Now he writes from the Vedic literatures, but he gives such kind of concocted philosophies in his books. And this is very appealing. Anything which is counterculture, anything which is, although religious but appears religious, but promoting this kind of sense gratificatory things, which is prominent in the young generation. That becomes very appealing. People want to read more. Twisted things, people want to read more. That is the nature of Kali Yuga. So these books are becoming the best selling books, in India. If you sell Prabhupada books, people don't read. But if somebody projects the twisted thing out of something like Karna was, hero, or Ravana was also hero, something twisted, then Kali Yuga youth are more attracted, they go for such things more. That is the natural trend, and they're reading also such things. So when they read such things, that gets into it. Another thing is that the people who are very popular, the moment it becomes bestseller, even those who don't want to read, they want to read. To come in this elite club of that I also have read the bestseller. Those who are have highest number of subscribers on YouTube channel, YouTube influencers. So even though those who are not interested, they start watching their videos to make people know that I am also connected to this personality. I also here, become that elite group. So they are heavily influenced by all these things, like as Maharaj was mentioning, or another thing is that people, they are attracted to philanthropic activities. So even though they don't believe in God, but they believe in doing something philanthropic. So some spiritual organizations, they promote such philanthropic activities that they want to join there. So that kind of mindset is there. Now what we are discussing here is that people have this kind of tendency. How we can attract such kind of people, in our programs, our outreach programs. So our preaching programs, our preaching strategies should be fine-tuned in such a way. We should know that when we are going to the audience have all these kinds of ideas and the mindsets. It is already there in their mind. They are watching videos, they are reading books and all these things. So when we approach them, we should expect that such kind of questions will come, and we should be prepared. Our presentations, our strategies, our plans for preaching should be well-tuned, fine-tuned to take care of all such kind of people. How we are going to address their questions. If they ask this question, how are you going to answer? So we should be prepared with that. So that's very, very valid point, that our presentation should be very relevant and logical. That's what Maharaj will say. Thank you so much.
Hare. So thank you very much, His Grace Sundar Gopal Prabhu Ji. So now it's already 11:50, and thank for the discussion. I'd like to throw out one question and thought. Yesterday, now this youth convention, around 1700 youths have come, including the brahmacharis. So out of that, 750 from Karnataka, some Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, 700, Tamilnadu 70, and Kerala we did not got the count. So what could we do? Now the preaching is happening in pockets in South India. but we want to see it going all the way, that everywhere all the state preaching should grow. So maybe some thoughts on that, Maharaj.
I think I already spoke on that. That's my main point. How to percolate and pervade and take the youth before they get spoiled or get introduced to something else, and give them the alternative of Krishna consciousness. I think we need to think also, a lot of times we are thinking that they should become full-time devotees, wear kurta, dhoti and join the temple and all that. Now we need to think like a large pyramid. In the apex of the pyramid are full-time devotees inside the temple and brahmacharis, and a little outside you have practicing people and all that. But we need to look at the other frustum of the pyramid, a larger one, that we need to influence people at least in the future to take up Krishna consciousness, so that they don't go elsewhere. I think sometimes that the full pyramid of influence we may not be covering. We may be preaching specifically with the aim of bringing people to Krishna consciousness, bring them full-time brahmacharis in the temple like that. Many other organizations have started thinking differently, especially in the postmodern world, because I said we have width. The width has increased a lot, information and social media and internet. So we may also need to extend our pyramid in the base a little bit more and make our preaching broader, that people may like to chant, take part in Harinam, Sankirtan, Prasadam and outing, and they respect you and they like the philosophy, but they are not forced, but they like to. They chant one round and they're just like that. We may have to think about that band, to spend more time in that band, and maybe from there we will get a lot coming inside in the future. That's my feeling, to percolate. And that's why I said in the other band, you need to preach in different languages. Like I said, preaching is not only speaking and giving people a lot of information. Preaching may also be considered to be association, friendship, being there with them and taking part in their little things in life and influencing them from there to take up Krishna consciousness. Nowadays, I think that's very important, especially with social media and with both the males and females mixing a lot. With all those things factored in nicely, we should pitch in a good strategic preaching. We should take the rest of them also with us. And then I think over a period of time, they will also be in the apex, and the apex will grow fatter. Something, just a few thoughts.
Thank you, Maharaj. That to focus on making devotees rather than making brahmacharis. Thank you.
No.
So maybe last one point we'll take from Sundar Gopal Prabhu and we end this.
Yeah, very nice, because Maharaj is spending a lot of time here to spend. I remember when I was in Bangalore in 2004 to 2007, I was living in the base near Sri Jagannath Mandir, Sadripuram. That was a very nice time. Although in the temple there is no brahmachari. But even the rest of devotees were so inspiring, so loving. And that time Maharaj used to come to our base and we used to hear from Maharaj, and Maharaj used to give us seminars. So Maharaj has a lot of experience, and we can very clearly, and very practical points Maharaj is mentioning, what I can see, is that the time is, changing, and people, the way the people are thinking, like earlier we can give people 1 hour, 2 hour lectures, but now they want quick, 5-second, 10-second message. And modern youth are born and brought up in that situation, that kind of ambience they have come up. For them, very difficult to sit for long hours and hear and all these things. So I fully agree with this point. What Maharaj is bringing is that we have to consider all these aspects when we are preaching to the audience. But because it's not about they don't want what we are giving. They don't like. They like, but they are conditioned. Like one example I'll give you. One boy came in our program and then we were speaking on glories of Vedic culture. And then he asked me one question. He said, you are talking about glory of Vedic culture, but in your temple you have Western toilet. You people are using Western toilet. I said, we are spreading the glories of Vedic culture, but we are not fanatic. See what is important. Suppose someone comes from the childhood, the person is using Western toilet in his home. The parents are using Western toilet, and suddenly in ISKCON temple he comes and then he gets Indian toilet. He has no experience of sitting on that, and he goes inside and he cannot pass. And therefore he cannot sit and chat because he's the whole time thinking how to pass. So better to have Western toilet, let him pass and then come and sit this way and